Right, so let me just clear the screen for a second. So Control and then L, and then let's just say kubectl describe service and then order. So there we go. So in here, you can see that we have this IP address and this is stable. Unlike pod IP addresses, which can change because remember, pods, they're not reliable. The IP address is not reliable because they come and go. So instead, we should be using this IP address. So here, so these two are the same because there is only one IP address. So we should be using this IP address instead. So in here, I'm going to press Command C, and then I'm going to go back to VS Code. And remember before, so where was it? So in our customer deployment, check this out. So order service, and this was a random IP for a pod, remember, right? So here, let's just replace that with the service IP address. So here you see that this is the service IP address, and then this port right here. So this is this port. So which port is it? Is this one here? So port 8081 is this one here, and then the target port is the one on the pod itself, which is the same. So in here, right? So this port right here is this one. So if I go back to order deployment, so is this one, is the first one here, and then the target port, so this one, target port is this one in here. So hopefully this makes sense. So now if I go back to customer deployment and then save this, and then let's just basically apply. So kubectl apply -f and then customer deployment. There we go, it's configured. Now what I'm going to do is I'm still going to use port forwarding, right? I'm going to use port forwarding to access the pod itself because we're using service for internal communication. So we haven't covered how to expose the application to the external, right? So here, if I say kubectl and then get and then service, or SVS is the same thing. So here, right? So remember, so have a look, external IP, it's none. We only have a cluster IP. So this is an internal IP, which is used for internal communication. So we're going to learn how to use a service that allows us to access the application externally. But for now, what we're going to do is port forward. So here, just say port and then forward. And then we're going to basically do the same. So deployment customer. So let me just show you. So kubectl get and then deploy. So we should have the customer in here. So there we go. So I'm just saying kubectl port forward and then 8080 on the host, and this is on the container. So enter. Now if I open up my web browser in here, there we go. And before, remember, we had a connection timeout. This is because the pod IP address had changed, but now we'll be using the service. So if I reload this, have a look, you can see that this worked. So here 3 doesn't have anything, so let's just say 1 in here, and you can see that this is working beautifully. So now the customer microservice is talking to the order microservice using a service. Now remember, I said that the service IP address is stable, but we also have a DNS. So in here, we're going to talk about service discovery later, but for now, we can just say order and then 8081, and Kubernetes will do its magic to find the IP address for this service, and internally it knows how to find the service. So I'm going to save this, and let's just cancel for a second here, and let's apply the customer deployment again. You can see that it's been configured, and let's port forward once more, and you see that now this is order, right, instead of the IP address, which we don't need to remember. This is much easier. So let's just go back in here, refresh, check this out. This still works. So let me just show you. So here, let me say 16, that doesn't exist. So let me just prove it to you that this is actually working. So Control C there. And if I say, for example, hello, and then let's apply, let's port forward, and in here, let's reload. And you can see that this also will eventually time out. So it's not working. You see that it's actually hanging in here. So there we have it. So let me just go back here and then just say order. And this is much easier. Now you see that this port right here, so 8081. So what you can do also is, so here, let me just press Control C. I just want to come out of that. So you see in here where we say order and then column and then 8081. So what we can do is actually remove this completely right here. So this is just order. So Command C. So I'm going to show you in a second how this is actually being translated, right? So just say order in here and then go to order deployment, and then the port in here will be 80. So you can do this as well, right? So therefore you don't need to specify any port. So you just say order, it receives it on port 80, and then it sends it to 8081, which is this beautiful microservice. So in here, if I save this, and let me just go to customer, so server.js, I just want to show you that this is what's happening. So here, it becomes like this. So the order service, it becomes that, right? HTTP and then order. So before we had the IP, and now we changed to the service name, and Kubernetes knows how to translate this into the IP address. And basically this is using service discovery, and I'm going to teach you more about service discovery later in this course. So let's just keep it like that. And in here, let's just Control C in here, and then we need to apply. So let's apply the, I think was the customer. So I actually forgot. So what did we change? So we changed, yeah, so customer deployment and order as well, right? So we change both. So let's first, it doesn't matter, either order does work. So customer deployment and order deployment. There we go. So you can see that the service is configured. So kube ctl get and then service, and you can see that we have order. So let's just describe order. So kube ctl describe and then service, or service like that, and then order, and have a look, endpoints. So it found 2 pods and it's looking good. So if I open up my web browser, and in here, if I reload, and in fact it's not working because I need to port forward once more. So port forward, there we go, 8080, and then that forwards to 8080 on the container. And then internally, the customer microservice talks to the order microservice using the Kubernetes service that we created. So here, let's just go back and then reload and check this out. So this is also working. So 3, there's nothing there. If I say 2, there we go, and 1 as well. There we go. So we have some data back. So this is really nice. So you can see that how we change the ports. So you should now know these ports, what they are used for. And one thing to bear in mind, that you can have an array of ports, so you not just stick to one port. So there you have it. You now know how to use the cluster IP service type. If you have any questions, drop me a message. Otherwise, let's move on.